Welcome, traveler of stories. Tonight, we journey into the realm of endless waters, where myths still breathe. The sea stretches beyond the horizon, a mirror of the sky, hiding secrets in its silent and shifting heart. Among the Olympian gods, Poseidon rules these waters, his trident guiding the tides, the storms, and the calm. But even a god of the sea can feel unease when the ocean whispers of something forgotten, something vast. Fishermen once spoke of a place no light could touch, a trench so deep it seemed to swallow the world whole. They called it the flooded abyss, a chasm where time itself drifted slowly, where memory became water. Most dismissed it as a tale to frighten sailors. Yet the waves themselves began to carry its name like a hymn. On quiet nights, the tides shifted strangely, and a low hum seemed to rise from beneath the ocean floor. Poseidon listened. The sea was restless, alive with its secrets, calling him toward the mystery no mortal dared enter. This is the story of that call, and of what Poseidon found in the silence beyond sound, in the depth beyond depth. The sea was calm, yet the air carried a strange weight, as though the world itself held its breath. Sailors whispered of the deep, of places no star could guide, of waters that bent even the light of the moon. In taverns by the shore, old voices spoke of shadows in the current, of shapes too vast to be named. They said the ocean dreamed, and in those dreams, a dark trench yawned, waiting, endless and unseen. The younger sailors laughed, but in their eyes lingered fear, for the stories clung like salt to their skin. The elders remembered nights when the sea sang, a low hum that rose from nowhere and carried through the tide. It was not the song of whales, nor the call of storms, but something older, deeper, impossible to explain. Those who heard it could never forget, for it sank into their bones and made their dreams heavy with water. They called it the whisper of the deep, a voice that stirred not from air, but from the living body of the sea. Legends grew around this voice, shaping it into prophecy, into omen, into a warning that none could ignore. Some claimed the abyss was a wound in the world, a place where the sea touched the roots of creation. Others said it was a prison, holding memories too ancient, too vast for mortals to understand. A few dared to believe it was a passage, a doorway through which one might step into forgotten realms. But none knew the truth, and the ocean, with all its vastness, refused to yield its hidden heart. One night, a fisherman returned to shore pale as driftwood, his nets empty, his eyes fixed on nothing. He spoke of light rising from the trench, a glow that pulsed like a heartbeat far below the surface. He swore he heard voices within it, not cruel, not kind, but endless, carrying a weight older than stone. The village listened in silence, for the sea gave much but took more, and its mysteries were never mocked. Word spread like tidewater, moving from shore to shore, until even the temples echoed with hushed prayers. The priests poured libations, asking Poseidon to guard them, for the abyss seemed a force beyond all measure. Yet Poseidon himself felt the tremor, for the sea is his realm, and no current moves without his knowing. In his halls beneath the waves, the god sat in stillness, his trident resting by his side, his gaze far. He could feel the pull, a soft beckoning, not of malice, but of memory, urging him to descend. The sea nymphs gathered, speaking of currents that shifted strangely, of reefs that glowed in unnatural hues. Tritons whispered of caverns where the walls trembled, as though the ocean floor itself drew breath. The waters grew restless, tides rising higher than before, pressing against the shores with subtle unease. Even the dolphins, playful messengers of the sea, swam wide arcs to avoid the region near the trench. It was as though the ocean was waiting, preparing for something or someone to answer its silent call. In every ripple, in every tide, Poseidon felt the same truth. The abyss was no longer content to sleep. And so, as the stars drifted across the heavens, the sea god rose, his heart steady, his path clear. For when the ocean whispers, even gods must listen, for its voice carries the memory of all creation. Poseidon sat in his coral throne, the halls of his kingdom alive with drifting light and the song of currents. Though his realm glittered with beauty, his gaze was heavy, for the whispers of the abyss pressed into his mind. He had ruled the oceans for ages, shaping tides with a thought, guiding storms with the lift of his hand. Yet the sea itself was restless, carrying a rhythm that did not belong to him, a call rising from unseen depths. The nymphs of the kelp forests spoke in hushed tones, their voices like the rustling of leaves in a silent wind. They feared a change, for the currents no longer followed familiar paths, twisting strangely, breaking their harmony. Tritons, once bold guardians of coral gates, swam uneasily, sensing an unseen hand stirring the waters below. Even the great whales, lords of song, shifted their migration, their voices filled with long echoes of confusion. Poseidon closed his eyes, listening not with ears, but with spirit, feeling the subtle tremors ripple through the sea. The tremors were not violent, but constant, like a heartbeat, like the ocean remembering something too vast to hold. He rose, his trident gleaming with soft light, a beacon drawn from the heart of the ocean itself. Around him, the floor of his palace shimmered, seashell mosaics glowing faintly as if aware of his thoughts. The god walked through his halls, the walls lined with pearls that caught and reflected the flicker of sea fire. Every step carried the weight of decision, for he knew the sea was speaking, and he could not turn away. He passed the chamber of tides, where water rose and fell within crystal basins, marking the rhythm of the world. Here, the waves surged strangely, lifting higher, falling lower, as though touched by a force beyond his will. Poseidon paused, tracing the ripple with his hand, his fingers meeting water that hummed with hidden memory. It was a soundless music, one that stirred ancient echoes within him, fragments of time before Olympus rose. He remembered the first birth of seas, when chaos parted and waters poured into valleys to cradle the newborn earth. He remembered the silence of deep trenches, older than land, untouched by light, where creation left its shadow. And now the abyss sang again, not in rage, not in sorrow, but in insistence, demanding to be heard. Poseidon lifted his trident, and its prongs shone brighter, a flame of sea light against the vastness around him. From distant chambers, his courtiers gathered, their forms shimmering like dreams woven from foam and tide. They bowed in silence, sensing his burden, knowing the sea itself had unsettled their lord of endless waters. Poseidon spoke softly, though his voice carried like thunder, declaring he must descend into the dark trench. The courtiers trembled, but none dared object, for they knew when the sea called, even gods could not deny. Outside, the waters stirred, waves lifting and folding, a restless sea mirroring the unease within its master. Dolphins leapt close to the surface, their sleek bodies shining, their patterns wild and out of rhythm. Above, mortals saw the signs, tides swelling strangely, skies clouding though no storm had been summoned. Priests on the shore lit fires, offering wine and honey, pleading for Poseidon's calm hand upon the sea. But Poseidon was silent, his thoughts fixed on the trench, the abyss, the mystery breathing in the unseen dark. He knew the ocean held secrets even he had not touched, and the time had come to face what stirred below. For the sea is vast, but it remembers, and now its memory rose, whispering to the God who ruled its tides. The sea kingdom gathered in silence, its courtiers waiting as the god of tides prepared to speak of the abyss. The nymphs stood with hair flowing like drifting seaweed, their eyes wide, listening for words they feared to hear. Tritons tightened their grip on coral spears, though they knew no weapon could hold against the mysteries below. Even the smallest creatures of the deep clustered nearby, sensing the weight of the moment, sensing the unrest. Poseidon rose slowly, his trident casting ripples of light across the chamber, painting the walls in shifting waves. His voice was calm yet heavy, like thunder carried beneath the water, unyielding and certain. The ocean speaks, and I must listen, he declared, his words echoing through halls carved by the hands of time. The courtiers shivered, for none wished to follow him into the trench, yet none could turn away from his decree. He spoke of currents that no longer obeyed, of tides unbound, of whispers threading through the fabric of the sea. The ocean was alive, always, but now it was different, awake in a way it had not been for ages. Nereids exchanged uneasy glances, remembering tales their mothers had told of a time before gods ruled waves, stories of a deep so ancient that even chaos feared it, a place where silence shaped the first waters. Poseidon's council remembered too, though none had dared speak the name. The abyss, the uncharted cradle of secrets. One bold Triton stepped forward, his voice trembling but strong enough to carry through the vast chamber. Lord of the seas, he said, if the abyss wakes, what if it brings ruin upon waters and shore alike? Poseidon looked upon him with patience, for even gods understand fear, and even gods do not know all. The abyss is not ruin, Poseidon replied, but memory. To silence it would be to silence the ocean itself. His words washed over them, leaving both fear and calm, for mysteries do not yield to certainty. A Nereid, her voice soft as foam, whispered that she had dreamt of glowing fissures and endless songs of light. Others nodded, confessing visions of currents curling like serpents, guiding them toward unseen depths. The chamber filled with murmurs, not of rebellion, but of wonder laced with unease, a song of uncertainty. Poseidon lifted his trident once more, and silence returned, as still and deep as the sea itself. Prepare the waters, he said. The path must be opened, for the abyss calls, and I must answer. With his command, the court dispersed, each soul carrying whispers of dread and awe through coral streets. Outside, the sea swelled higher, pressing against cliffs, its rhythm irregular, its voice rising in low hums. On the surface, sailors clung to their ships, hearing the ocean sing beneath their hulls, strange and unearthly. Children on the shore paused in play, staring at waters that gleamed with faint light, as if stars fell below. Priests burned incense, their chants drifting with the wind, asking not for calm seas, but for mercy and mystery. And far below, in the kingdom of the sea god, Poseidon walked alone into the hall of waves. Here, the waters themselves gathered, rising high along crystal walls, shifting like liquid mirrors of the world. He placed his trident into the center, and the waters parted, forming a circle of silence around him. The abyss whispered louder now, not with threat, not with promise, but with inevitability, calling him deeper. Poseidon did not smile, nor frown, but listened, his heart steady, for gods too are bound by the sea's truth. For the flooded abyss had awakened, and its voice now reached not just mortals, but the lord of the tides. Poseidon left his halls of coral and pearl, stepping into the open waters where the sea stretched vast and endless. The currents swirled around him, gentle yet restless, as though guiding him toward the path only he could walk. Above, sunlight streamed faintly through the waves, breaking into silver shards that scattered across his shoulders. Each stroke carried him deeper, past forests of kelp swaying like green cathedrals in the ocean's endless song. Schools of fish darted away in shimmering arcs, sensing the god's solemn intent as he moved below them. The dolphins, once playful companions, circled from afar, watching in silence, unwilling to follow him further. He passed through coral ridges glowing softly, their colors dimmed by a quiet unease humming through the sea. Tritons saluted their lord as he passed, their eyes filled with awe and fear, knowing his path led to shadow. The nymphs offered whispers like blessings, their voices rising in streams of bubbles, prayers for his safe return. Poseidon acknowledged none of it, for his mind was steady, his heart fixed upon the call rising from below. The deeper he swam, the fainter the sunlight grew, until the ocean turned from blue to green to black. Strange shapes drifted past him, creatures of the deep whose bodies glowed with their own gentle lantern light. They moved slowly, unafraid, as though they too were drawn by the same call that pulled their master downward. The silence thickened, broken only by the beat of his heart and the faint hum echoing in the trenches. The seabed dropped away, revealing a chasm so vast it seemed to swallow not just water, but time itself. Its walls glistened faintly, as though carved from obsidian, glowing with cracks that pulsed like hidden veins of fire. Poseidon hovered at its edge, his trident shining like a star against the void stretching before him. The abyss waited, silent, its breath steady, the hum rising in rhythm with the tide of his own chest. He descended slowly, each movement deliberate, as though the sea thickened, resisting his passage into its heart. The trench grew darker, pressing in with weight, yet the god moved without hesitation, guided by the unseen song. Whispers curled through the water, not words but feelings, carrying fragments of memory too old for mortal tongue. He saw flashes of creation, mountains rising from foam, rivers carving land, islands breaking free of the sea. He felt the weight of civilizations long gone, their voices carried in the water, their echoes living in silence. The deeper he went, the more the world above seemed distant, as though the abyss itself was a world apart. He passed pillars of stone rising like towers, their surfaces etched with markings lost to gods and men alike. Creatures unknown lingered near them, their eyes glowing softly, watching with patience, but offering no threat. The hum grew louder, yet it did not frighten. It calmed, as though reminding him he was part of its song. Poseidon's trident responded, its light pulsing in rhythm, answering the call of the abyss with its own beat. It was as though his weapon remembered something he did not, carrying knowledge forged in the sea's first dawn. The descent stretched on, timeless, until Poseidon reached a vast expanse where the trench opened into a valley. Here, the darkness was not empty, but alive, a canvas painted with drifting lights and silent currents of power. At the center, a fissure glowed faintly, steady and slow, like the heartbeat of the ocean itself made visible. Poseidon hovered before it, the weight of eternity pressing against him. Yet he did not falter, for the abyss had called, and now he stood at its threshold, ready to listen to its ancient voice. Poseidon hovered before the glowing fissure, the hum vibrating through the water like a heartbeat older than stars. His trident pulsed with the same rhythm, the metal alive, its light weaving into the darkness as though it belonged here. The abyss was not silent now. It whispered, not in words, but in feelings that slid into his mind like tides. He felt the weight of ages, not crushing but vast, like standing at the shore of time itself. The god's breath slowed, steady, as he let the ancient current guide his spirit deeper into its mystery. Around him, the water thickened, pressing against his skin, though it carried no malice, only an undeniable gravity. The fissure widened as he drew closer, unveiling a cavern carved not by stone, but by will and memory. Its walls shimmered faintly with traces of light, each line a fragment of history written in the sea's secret tongue. Poseidon reached out, fingers brushing the surface, and the cavern answered with a surge of warmth and knowing. Images bloomed in his mind, like pearls opening. Visions of the sea's beginning, when it was both cradle and wild. He saw rivers rushing into valleys, mountains rising, storms birthing islands, the ocean shaping the world's first breath. He felt himself part of it, not master, but kin, bound by threads spun at the dawn of creation. The whispers grew clearer, and with them, a presence emerged. Not a figure, but a voice woven from the deep. It was vast, patient, and calm, carrying the weight of silence kept for eons beneath crushing tides. Child of the waters, it seemed to say, though no words were spoken, you have come where few may stand. Poseidon lowered his trident, acknowledging the unseen presence, his heart steady though his spirit trembled with awe. I have heard your call, he thought. And though he spoke no sound, the abyss answered with ripples of light. The fissure flared softly, unveiling not power, but memory. Echoes of a world long gone, still breathing in its depths. He saw cities once resting on the sea's edge, their towers shining, their voices lifted in praise and song. He saw them fall, not through war or fire, but swallowed gently like children taken back by a mother. The ocean did not destroy. It carried, it held, it preserved in silence what the world above forgot. Poseidon felt sorrow, not his own, but the sorrow of ages, of stories drowned, of names lost in waves. The abyss whispered again, steady and sure, reminding him that nothing truly vanished in the water's embrace. Every memory, every dream, every fallen song still lingered, woven into the fabric of the sea itself. The god bowed his head, humbled by the truth, for he ruled the waves yet had not known their full depths. The cavern darkened then, the glow fading into a softer hum, as though testing the god's resolve to remain. Poseidon did not retreat. He stepped forward, deeper still, until the fissure welcomed him fully into its heart. Inside, the space expanded into a chamber vast and endless, yet intimate, as though built only for him. Light glimmered in threads across the walls, constellations beneath the sea, patterns he could almost but not fully read. He realized they were stories, not of gods, not of men, but of the sea itself speaking its eternal truth. Each line was a current, each star a tide, each breath a memory folded into the ocean's living body. And at its center, the hum grew steady, becoming a song that resonated with Poseidon's very soul. The trident glowed brighter, joining the song, its metal vibrating with joy, as though it too had come home. Poseidon closed his eyes, letting the music fill him, binding him tighter to the ocean's secret heart. When he opened them again, the abyss was quiet, watching, waiting, as though asking if he was ready. Poseidon lifted his trident high, its light reaching into the darkness, and whispered with his spirit, I will listen. The chamber's silence deepened, yet it was not empty. It felt alive, like the ocean itself had drawn breath to speak. Poseidon stood still, his trident glowing faintly, its light steady as though tethered to the unseen heart around him. The abyss whispered again, but now the whispers formed patterns, soft waves weaving into something almost like words. He closed his eyes, allowing the current of meaning to pass through him, letting it shape visions in his mind. He saw the first tides, restless and wild, shaping the newborn earth with hands unseen, carving valleys, sculpting shores. He saw rivers feeding seas, storms singing across waters, lightning etching the air with fire as rain fell like blessings. Every drop held memory, every wave carried story, and together they became the pulse of the living ocean. The abyss showed him life's first stirrings, creatures rising from shadow, small yet unyielding, breathing where none had before. He felt their joy, their struggle, their persistence, and understood how the sea cradled not just gods, but every being. Then came silence, broken by loss as worlds shifted, lands drowned, and cities vanished into the embrace of the deep. Poseidon saw it all, not as tragedy, but as a cycle, the sea keeping what others abandoned, never truly erasing. The god's heart tightened, humbled by the truth that the ocean was not a weapon, but a keeper of memory. His grip on the trident eased, its glow softening, for he knew he was not master but guardian of these depths. The abyss stirred, its hum rising, and the chamber shivered like a vast heart beating, drawing him closer to its core. Lights on the walls brightened, constellations of the deep aligning into shapes that mirrored the stars above the sea. Poseidon realized the ocean reflected the heavens, a mirror between realms, uniting sky and water in a single, endless song. He felt his power stretch outward, no longer bound to surface storms or waves, but rooted in the sea's eternal depth. Yet with this gift came weight, the knowing that every flood, every tide, carried echoes of those who came before. The abyss pressed this truth upon him gently, reminding him that his choices would ripple beyond gods and men alike. Poseidon bowed his head, the enormity of it clear, but he did not resist, for he had come seeking understanding. The fissure at the chamber's heart opened wider, its glow steady, revealing currents flowing inward like rivers of time. He stepped closer, feeling each current brush against him, carrying voices, dreams, fragments of civilizations long forgotten. They did not accuse. They sang, their tones soft, grateful that the sea remembered when the world above had not. Poseidon's chest swelled with reverence, and he whispered into the water, "You are the memory of all that lives." The abyss answered, not with words, but with warmth spreading through his being, binding him more tightly to the sea. He felt it anchor in his spirit, a bond unbreakable, deeper than power, more enduring than his immortal form. The chamber dimmed, the glow softening into steady embers, as though the abyss had spoken all it wished to share. But Poseidon knew this was only the beginning, that he had been invited into a secret few could ever touch. He turned slowly, gazing at the glowing walls, constellations still shimmering faintly, holding stories he had yet to learn. The silence pressed in again, not heavy but sacred, urging him to carry what he had witnessed back to the sea. Poseidon lifted his trident, the glow now calm, and whispered to the darkness, "I will remember as you remember." And the abyss, vast and patient, answered with a final hum, steady and soft, like a lullaby sung by eternity. Poseidon drifted from the chamber, his trident steady, the abyss quiet yet alive, guiding him toward deeper revelation. The waters pressed close, dark and endless, yet he no longer felt alone, for the sea's memory pulsed within him. Each current touched his form gently, carrying fragments of voices, songs, and dreams that had once echoed on distant shores. He moved through arches of stone shaped by time, their surfaces etched with marks left by tides and forgotten ages. Light flickered faintly across the walls, like stars beneath the sea, constellations whispering secrets only eternity could keep. Poseidon reached out, brushing the rock, and felt stories ripple through his fingertips. Echoes of lives folded into water. Some were joyous, filled with laughter that still danced like bubbles. Others carried sorrow that lingered softly, refusing to fade. He understood now that the ocean bore it all, holding without judgment, cradling every fragment of existence in its heart. The abyss called him onward, a hum beneath the silence, patient and steady, urging him closer to its hidden truth. The path descended into a canyon, wide and shadowed, its floor glowing faintly with veins of blue and silver light. Poseidon followed, his trident shining brighter, its glow merging with the luminescent streams winding like rivers across the stone. The rivers did not flow with water, but with memory, threads of ancient song weaving through the fabric of the abyss. He paused to listen, and the streams sang softly, their tones carrying lullabies once sung to children above the waves. He heard prayers whispered by sailors, promises spoken by lovers, cries of hope, fear, and longing, all preserved here. The god's heart stirred, heavy with reverence, for the abyss was not merely darkness, but a cathedral of remembrance. As he advanced, shapes emerged ahead, monoliths rising from the sea floor, carved from obsidian, towering like guardians of silence. Their surfaces gleamed with symbols older than Olympus, runes that shifted when gazed upon, alive with shifting waves of meaning. Poseidon approached cautiously, feeling their presence stir, not hostile but watchful, as though measuring the truth within him. He raised his trident in respect, and the runes pulsed, acknowledging him, their glow spreading like a tide across the stone. The monoliths sang then, not in voice, but in vibration, low tones shaking the water, resonating with his very bones. It was a song of welcome and warning, a reminder that to bear the sea's truth was to carry its weight. Poseidon closed his eyes, letting the resonance flood him, each note carving deeper ties between his spirit and the ocean. Visions flared once more. Brighter now, he saw storms shaped not by rage, but by need, balancing earth and sky alike. He saw floods not as punishment, but renewal, waters sweeping to cleanse, to heal, to begin again what had withered. The god understood. Destruction and creation were twin tides, inseparable, flowing as one eternal rhythm beneath the sea's hand. The monoliths dimmed, their song fading, satisfied that Poseidon had grasped the truth they were bound to guard. The canyon stretched onward, the veins of silver light growing stronger, converging toward a single distant glow at its end. Poseidon moved forward, his steps sure, his heart steady, though he sensed what awaited would be greater still. The abyss was guiding him to its core, where silence and song became one, where memory and power entwined. He knew he was nearing the threshold of a secret no god, no mortal, had ever fully claimed. The waters around him grew warmer, vibrant, alive, as though he swam within the veins of the ocean itself. Every breath carried echoes of eternity. Every beat of his heart aligned with the rhythm of the deep's unbroken song. Poseidon's trident glowed brightest yet, its light unwavering, and the abyss hummed with anticipation, ready to unveil its heart. He pressed onward, deeper still, the canyon narrowing, the glow ahead expanding like dawn rising with an endless night. And Poseidon, god of the sea, whispered to himself, "I am ready." As the abyss opened its heart before him, Poseidon drifted deeper, the canyon walls glowing with silver veins, their light weaving patterns that pulsed like a heartbeat. The abyss was alive, and each flicker of light seemed to guide him, as though the ocean itself cleared a path ahead. He moved carefully, his trident steady, the currents curling softly around him like companions whispering their quiet trust. The silence was vast, but not empty, filled with echoes of memory, a rhythm older than the gods themselves could recall. His gaze lifted, and he saw arches of crystal spanning the canyon, their surfaces shimmering with reflections of forgotten skies. Each crystal sang faintly, like glass touched by wind, and Poseidon felt each tone resonate deep within his immortal chest. The path narrowed, funneling him toward a radiant glow ahead, a point of brilliance that pierced the endless darkness. As he advanced, the glow grew brighter, shifting from silver to gold, its warmth spreading through the cold, abyssal waters. It was not fire, but light woven from memory, soft and radiant, carrying peace that eased the weight upon his heart. The canyon widened suddenly, revealing a vast chamber carved by no hand, its walls glowing with rivers of living light. Poseidon entered with reverence, his trident casting shadows that danced along the veins of silver, gold, and deep azure. At the chamber's heart floated a sphere of liquid light, pulsing like a star, suspended by the unseen hands of eternity. It shimmered with shifting hues, reflecting storms, calm seas, sunlit shallows, and unfathomable depths all at once, eternal and whole. Poseidon approached slowly, each step heavy with awe, for he knew he had reached the core of the abyss itself. The sphere called to him, not with words, but with feeling, a pull that beckoned his spirit closer to its truth. When he raised his trident, the light responded, streams of brilliance flowing outward, twining around him in luminous embrace. The god closed his eyes, letting the light seep into him, filling him with visions that surpassed all he had seen before. He beheld the birth of seas, waters surging from nothingness, filling valleys, shaping continents, giving breath to life's first song. He saw creatures rise and fall, eras flowing like tides, every heartbeat carried in the memory of the ocean's embrace. The light revealed storms that raged to cleanse, floods that renewed the land, droughts that taught balance through silence and need. He saw mortals raising temples, whispering prayers into seashells, casting offerings into waves, their faith woven into the waters. He understood then, this sphere was no mere relic, but the heart of remembrance, the soul of the ocean itself. The abyss was not darkness, but memory eternal, carrying all joy, sorrow, hope, and loss within its endless embrace. Poseidon felt his own essence expand, not with power to rule, but with wisdom to carry, to nurture, to protect. The sphere pulsed once more, brighter than dawn, and its light poured into his trident, etching new runes across its shaft. The trident now glowed with a strength he had never felt, its song harmonizing with the heartbeat of the sea. The chamber trembled softly, not in collapse, but in resonance, as though the abyss itself recognized him as its chosen keeper. Poseidon opened his eyes, the glow reflecting in them, his spirit aligned with the memory of every tide and storm. He whispered to the sphere, his voice calm, "I carry your truth, and I will guard it as I guard the sea." The light dimmed slightly, settling into a steady glow, no longer overwhelming, but present, like a companion beside him. The currents shifted, drawing him gently backward, as though the abyss had given what it wished and now released him. Poseidon turned, his trident glowing steady, his heart steady too, knowing he bore the ocean's truth within himself forevermore. The path behind him glowed faintly, leading upward through the canyon as if the abyss was guiding him to return. He moved with reverence, each step lighter now, the silence no longer vast but alive, filled with song and memory. Poseidon, god of the sea, emerged from the chamber of light, no longer a seeker, but a guardian of the ocean's soul. Poseidon rose from the chamber of light, his trident glowing, the ocean's memory now part of his immortal essence. The abyss seemed calmer, its currents softer, as if it too exhaled relief after revealing its deepest secret to him. He swam upward, guided by glowing streams of silver, their faint radiance showing the path back through the canyon's embrace. Though the silence remained, it no longer felt hollow, but alive, carrying echoes of the truth he now carried within. As he moved, the waters shifted, bringing glimpses of visions, flashes of storms, floods, and calm tides yet to unfold. These were not warnings, but reminders, whispers that the balance he now guarded was fragile, precious, and eternal. The god's thoughts wandered to mortals above, their fleeting lives, their prayers, and their struggles against the vast, unknown sea. He knew now the ocean was both cradle and challenge, testing humanity but also nurturing them, offering beauty and survival. Poseidon tightened his grip on the trident, his resolve deepening. For he must guide without dominance, protect without possession. The path widened, again opening into a vast expanse where the abyss stretched endlessly, stars of light shimmering far below. Here, the currents swirled in great spirals, weaving patterns like constellations, a reminder that the sea mirrored the heavens above. Poseidon drifted among them, his heart steady, feeling the threads of connection binding sky, earth, and ocean in one eternal loom. Suddenly, the water shifted, rippling with energy, and from the spirals emerged forms of light, shimmering guardians of memory. They were not solid, but radiant silhouettes, shaped from pure essence, voices of the abyss made visible in living form. Their presence was neither threatening nor welcoming, but solemn, carrying the weight of centuries folded into their silent gaze. Poseidon bowed his head, acknowledging them, and the guardians circled, their forms weaving patterns like flowing ribbons of light. One drifted closer, its glow brushing his trident. And at the touch, Poseidon felt another surge of visions flood through. He saw cities built by the sea, rising with hope, falling with pride, yet always returning to the waves for renewal. He saw children learning to swim, elders casting nets, songs sung to the tides, all threads woven into the ocean's soul. The guardian withdrew, and Poseidon's heart was heavy, yet calm, carrying the weight of countless lives entrusted to the sea. The forms circled once more, then dissolved into currents, their lights scattering like stars, guiding him toward the abyss's ascent. He swam onward, each stroke strong, his path lit by faint trails of brilliance left by the guardian's vanishing glow. The canyon gave way to vast plains, the seabed stretching endlessly, dotted with coral spires glowing faintly in quiet hues. These spires pulsed like beacons, reminding Poseidon that life thrived even here, where darkness seemed endless, beauty still endured. He drifted among them, touching one gently, and it pulsed brighter, releasing a trail of bubbles that rose toward the surface. He watched them rise, each bubble like a prayer, a message carried upward, connecting the deep with the world above. Poseidon smiled faintly, for he understood now the abyss was not separation, but connection, a bridge between depths and heights. The silence grew warmer, the water shimmering faintly, as though the ocean itself was grateful for his acceptance of its truth. The trident's glow softened, steady and constant, its runes humming with quiet harmony, a song only he and the sea could hear. Poseidon pressed onward, sensing he was nearing the edge of the abyss, where light from the world above would return. His heart stirred, not with triumph, but with humility. For he knew his journey was not conquest, but communion. The abyss had shared its truth with him, and now he must carry it back, a guardian of memory, balance, and hope. He whispered to the waters, his voice low but resolute. I will not forget, and I will not fail. The currents swirled gently in reply, a soft embrace, as though the ocean itself answered, and we will remember with you. Poseidon moved forward, the glow ahead brightening, the promise of the surface waiting, the world above unaware of what he carried. But he knew, as he ascended, that every tide, every storm, every calm sea would forever echo the truth of the abyss. Poseidon ascended slowly, the pressure easing with every stroke, though the memory of the abyss lingered heavy in his spirit. The currents grew lighter, warmer, carrying scents of salt and life, a reminder he was nearing the threshold of the surface. Above him shimmered faint light, a promise of the world beyond, though he carried within him a deeper glow unending. He passed schools of fish that darted like ribbons of silver, their movements weaving joy into the silence of the sea. Coral gardens stretched along the sea floor, vibrant and alive, their colors glowing brighter as though sensing his renewed presence. The creatures of the deep did not flee but gathered, swimming beside him, as if honoring the guardian returning to their realm. Poseidon felt their silent trust, their wordless bond, and knew the sea itself had accepted his promise to carry its truth. He lifted his trident, its runes glowing steady, and the waters rippled outward, a quiet acknowledgement of his newfound harmony. The god's heart was steady, yet thoughts of mortals returned, those who lived by the shore, unaware of what he now bore. He remembered their prayers carried on waves, their fears cast into tides, their offerings whispered to the sea with trembling hope. Now he understood more deeply. The ocean was their companion, not enemy, offering life and lessons, not punishment alone. The surface light grew stronger, golden rays filtering down, illuminating his path, guiding him toward the border of two worlds. Poseidon paused, hovering in the glow, the abyss far below, the mortal realm above, balanced between memory and duty. He closed his eyes, whispering softly, "The sea is not wrath, nor silence, but song, and I will carry it faithfully." As his words dissolved into water, the current stirred, swirling gently, as though the ocean itself replied with approval. He began the final ascent, and the waters brightened until they shimmered like molten glass, alive with warmth and clarity. At last, Poseidon broke the surface, waves parting around him, sunlight spilling across his form, his trident blazing with light. The sky arched above, wide and endless, clouds drifting slowly, the air sweet with the scent of salt and distant earth. He inhaled deeply, though he needed no air, feeling the connection between sea and sky flow steady within his chest. The world above seemed unchanged, yet to Poseidon, it glowed differently, painted with the truth he now carried inside. He gazed upon distant shores, where mortals moved in their daily rhythms, their lives fragile, but woven into the sea's embrace. Birds circled overhead, their cries echoing across the waves, joining the ocean's song, completing the harmony of water and sky. Poseidon lifted his trident high, its glow softening, steady and calm, no longer a weapon, but a beacon of remembrance. The waves answered, rising gently around him, not in fury, but in welcome, a crown of water resting upon the sea. He felt the abyss within him still, its depth and silence, its memory eternal, guiding his hand with patience and strength. No longer was he merely ruler of storms, but guardian of balance, protector of all that dwelled within the ocean's reach. The sunlight shimmered across the waves, and Poseidon's heart was steady, his spirit bound forever with the truth of the deep. He whispered once more, this time to the horizon, I will guard, I will nurture, and I will remember for all. And the sea, vast and eternal, answered with a soft tide, its voice carrying across the world, echoing his vow forevermore. The sea stretched wide beneath the golden sky, endless and calm, carrying whispers of stories Poseidon now guarded with care. He stood upon the waves, steady as stone, his trident resting at his side, glowing faintly like a memory of the deep. The ocean was no longer only a realm of storms or silence, but a voice, a teacher, and a song that never truly ended. Poseidon breathed in the air above, the scent of earth drifting faintly, reminding him that land and sea were never apart. He thought of the mortals along the shores, their laughter, their fears, their fragile lives intertwined with the rhythm of the tides. They prayed not only in fear, but also in gratitude, giving thanks for fish, for rain, for the salt wind filling their sails. And now he understood. He was not just their god of fury, but also their guardian, their listener, their witness across all waters. The abyss had changed him, not by taking from him, but by gifting him the silence needed to hear what always was present. He remembered the vast shadows, the stillness, the gentle light within the dark, a reminder that even depths hold their own wisdom. Raising his trident once more, Poseidon let the waters ripple outward, carrying his vow across every current, near and far. I will not forget, he whispered. And the sea answered with a low hum, its surface shimmering like glass beneath the sun. The dolphins leapt nearby, playful arcs cutting through the waves, their song weaving joy into the calm, blessing his promise. Birds circled high above, their wings wide against the light, their cries echoing across the horizon in celebration of balance. The coral below swayed gently, their colors pulsing with life, as if bowing in harmony to the god's steady resolve. Poseidon walked upon the sea, each step leaving ripples that spread outward, touching coasts, islands, and every hidden cove beyond. He saw in his mind the mortals gathering seashells, building boats, and gazing at the horizon, unaware of the vow he carried. But they would feel it, he knew, in calmer waters, in gentler storms, in the song of the sea that spoke without words. He carried within him both silence and sound, both wrath and mercy, both storm and calm, woven together like waves eternal. As the sun dipped lower, painting the waters gold and crimson, Poseidon felt the ocean rest easy, at peace with itself. He whispered once more, the sea remembers, and so shall I. His words carried away, echoed, and returned upon the tide. The horizon stretched infinite, not as a boundary, but as a promise of stories yet untold, songs yet to be sung. Poseidon lowered his trident, letting its glow fade into a steady warmth, no longer blazing, but burning like an eternal flame. The waters lapped softly against him, a crown of waves encircling, not to command, but to honor the guardian who listened. The god of the sea was no longer a distant figure of fear, but a presence woven into every drop, every current, every tide. He belonged not only to the storms, but to the quiet bays, the hidden reefs, the laughter of children by the shore. The ocean's voice, once thought endless in fury, was now endless in song, carrying harmony across both sea and sky. And as night began to fall, the first stars shone above, mirrored perfectly in the calm water below, sky and sea united. Poseidon stood between them, keeper of balance, guardian of memory, his vow alive in both silence and sound, forevermore. The story of the abyss was not an ending, but a beginning, a tale to echo across ages, as constant as the tide. And so the sea sang, soft and endless, its song carried on winds, in waves, in whispers, reminding all it always remembers.